We were really excited to have representation from women in industry today. So we're welcoming 3 members of the Calgary Women in Energy organization. So welcome. Sue-Ann is on the board of directors. She's currently a manager of people readiness integration at Suncor. Rayna is the president of Calgary Women in Energy. She's also business development manager for Petroleum Industries. And Tara is the manager of marketing and sales for RailServe Incorporated and a longtime member of Calgary Women in Energy. We are so excited to have you all, so I'll let you take it from here.
Thanks. Well, we're really excited to be here. And Perri, thanks so much for reaching out to Calgary Women in Energy to invite us today. So I guess the format is just to kind of go over each of our individual experiences that we've had so far in our career, and then, touch on questions and answers. But if anyone wants to send a question in the chat box, please feel free. We can make this as interactive as possible, whatever everyone's comfortable with. So like Perri mentioned, I'm the president of Calgary Women in Energy. I have been a part of this organization for the last 5 years. And when I started off just as a member in the organization. I was new to the industry and really felt like I needed an organization where I could grow my professional development and network with other women in the industry, like-minded women, and also, just grow my contact list for my business. So I graduated from the University of Calgary with a degree in international relations and a minor in business. And once I graduated, I really had no idea what I wanted to do. So if there's some of you that feel like that, you're not alone. That's how I felt when I graduated. And then once I graduated, I kind of landed in an energy role within for a company for business development. And business development for me has been really exciting and fulfilling because I get to be the face of the company that I represent. And I also get to build really meaningful relationships in the industry. So fast forward to 5 years now, I'm the manager of business development for a company called Petroleum. And we are experts in storage tank maintenance, repair, and cleaning. So our clients are the Suncors of the world and the Cenovus's of the world. So interacting with those clients, and also as a service company, really understanding their needs and how we can support them in their overall business strategy has been really great for me. Calgary Women in Energy has also been a really rewarding experience for myself and for my career. This organization touches on philanthropy, networking, and education. So when I first started as a member, I attended all the networking events. I attended all the volunteering events that we do. I attended the annual charity golf tournament that we put on, because I really wanted to insert myself in the group, but also make an impact where I could. I was voted into a director role, director of membership, after being 2 years in the group and basically just doing everything that I possibly could. And as the director of membership, I vetted and interviewed all the prospective members for Calgary Women in Energy. So any woman in the industry who was interested in joining the group, I had to go meet and just make sure that what they were looking for in a group, their values and what was important to them aligned with what our group had to offer. So I was in that role for 2 years and made some really great connections and some really great relationships. And then I was voted into the president role. And it's been, for me, one of the most life-changing experiences that I've had personally and professionally. And I guess what I would impart on those listening is if you're passionate about something and if you care about something a lot, and if you want to make a difference, joining groups like Calgary Women in Energy can really help you cultivate those ideas, nurture those ideas, and have people around you that really support the success of what you're trying to achieve. And also surround yourself with people with diverse perspectives and opinions. I know when we get together for our board meetings, I'll have it in my mind that I want to do this event and it has to look like this and it has to go this way. And Sue Ann and Terrell will say, well, did you think about this? Or what about, including this? So being in this position that I have now, and being on the board with other women with different perspectives and ideas has really helped to shape some really successful events and have really helped to make an impact on our energy industry. I talk about my experience in my career because coming into the energy industry, if you're new or you're thinking like, they're the bad guys, like energy, oil and gas, it's bad, it's this, it's that. It really, this industry really is progressing in a way where we can really make an impact on a global scale when it comes to our resource development. And, our generations are so passionate about social issues and ESG and corporate responsibility and, social justice and just equality in the workplace, equality in the world. And I think that being a part of this industry can really help or really give you an opportunity to address some of these issues that you're passionate about and help, come to some resolutions or some problem solving based on your skills and abilities that you all bring to the table.
The company I work for is called RailServe. So we're a Marmon Berkshire Hathaway company. Rayna's company actually is part of that group as well too. And I do all of our sales and marketing in Canada, as well as work on some of our commercial agreements. I do a lot of our marketing, so PPC, Google AdWords, digital media, sales and project development, coordinating with a lot of our internal business units, so legal, accounting sometimes, operations. And then I also help develop our strategy for our North American operations. And so when I started years ago in the industry, I found what kind of kept me going. And what really excited me was learning a new skill set, especially when I was on the younger end of things. And now in my current role, it is extremely easy to kind of pivot every single time there's a new project or something. It is one of those things where I feel like I have a very diverse skill set. So there's one piece of advice I would give to anybody on this Zoom meeting right now is if there's a project and nobody raises their hand for it, raise your hand for it. Even if it's something you definitely didn't think you would want to do, because I think it's really helped me be successful in my career. And I've also been able to learn a lot. And now moving forward, I would love to gain some more operational perspective as well too. There's a lot of things you can learn. I feel like the learning part is constant, and starting in a very technical field, selling microseismic, where you're dealing with geomechanics and rock physics. And I know that there's some engineers probably in this room. You know how technical it is. And I was really lucky early on in my career to be connected with people that weren't just mentors, but also really advocated for me and pushed me to learn things and really tried to make sure that I was steering in the right direction. And I think it's so important. Another thing is that, each one of you individually, you guys are a brand and you need to promote yourselves like one. And I'm not just saying that because I have a marketing background, but it's really important to be visible in the industry. I think it creates a lot of career opportunities. And when those come around, and you guys are probably entering one of the hardest workforces to date, for sure. But when it does come around, networking with people, just trying to keep your options open and not even people directly in your field, but you know, accounting or other areas of business, you kind of never know what's going to come up. I've never worked the same job or selling the same thing, and I think it's because I've done that networking piece. And also being authentic. I think it's very, very important when you are in a room with other people and you're not sure of your idea or if it's a good idea and you propose it. And I think it's really important, however you feel in terms of your values and your business ethics, to vocalize that, because 9 times out of 10, I think a lot of people think things, but they don't say it. So be that person in the room who wants to actually speak up, especially being on the younger side. It is still very intimidating. I feel like the average age group I deal with, demographically, it's primarily male dominated. And most of them are 40 to 50 years old, maybe pushing 60. So it is one of those things where it's important to speak up, and a lot of people are extremely, extremely supportive of that. And if you have an advocate, they'll push you to do it more and more. And the more you do it, the easier it is. And the other thing that has also really helped me is finding female leadership. Right now, I have 3 female bosses or 3 female VPs that I actually report to. And they're huge advocates, but it also helps me realize how I should be conducting myself and the appropriate things I need to do to move forward to be successful. And having those people have really, really made it seem viable for women to get to the top. I think progress doesn't necessarily mean parity. And historically, I think women have really been working in a climate where we're excluded in the energy sector. But I know things are changing quite a bit. But I think there's a lot of self-doubt still and gender stereotypes. So I think any way you can try and be confident, even if you don't feel like it, kind of the fake it till you make it, I think it's extremely beneficial.
I'm Anne Fu-Joncic. I am currently the corporate secretary, and I've been the corporate secretary for over 9 years in those organizations. So it's near and dear to me. And I've been I don't know how I ended up in the energy industry, but I kind of did. And I've been here for the past almost 10 years. And it's treated me well, and I've learned so much. But a little bit about where I've come from is long time ago, over 15 years ago, I graduated with a bachelor's in science and biochemistry. So I majored in biochemistry and minored in management. But being in Calgary and staying in Calgary due to family and so forth, there's not a lot of opportunities in pharma or biotech, right? So I kind of, with a science degree, there was a few options. I think I started off in a construction company. I went into telecommunications. And then from there, I also, with same thing along with Tara, is got my project management certificate and then my PMP, and then was also doing a MBA part-time through the University of Calgary. So after completing that, I applied for a few different roles in Suncor. I got rejected, and then and then also a few other consulting companies at the time. So I got picked up by Accenture, and one of my first clients was actually Suncor. And I had no experience in the industry beyond Suncor or other oil and gas companies being a client of TELUS at the time. But going in, it was a big ramp up in terms of just knowledge and understanding. But I was coming in to management consult around process, around strategy. So that is, agnostic of any sort of industry, but you sure pick up a lot of really great industry nuances by being at the client. From there, after a big program, I was actually solicited by Suncor to join them. So it will be up to about 9 years now of being a Suncor employee. And it's been fantastic. I was picked up in HR for a lot of the different, for my career, and I have a lot of different roles, never the same thing twice. But I specialize in process, specialize in projects, and I also change management and people readiness. So right now I'm currently in an organization within Suncor that's looking at how we unlock free cash flow as we go into the new world, the energy transition world, our strategy around diversifying some of our assets, making sure that we are actually continuing our obligation to our communities that we serve, and also making sure that we have the right culture within the organization. So loving the job right now, and it's really about putting, it's quote Gandhi, it's like, be the change you want to see in the world, right? So lots of really great opportunities in Suncor as well as other organizations in oil and gas to really leverage, I think, the technical skills a lot of our schools are coming out with, which include like data literacy, right? Millennials, Gen Z, I think is a natural inclination for just understanding data, social media, how you can like navigate just so much data in the systems, and just part of your normal lives. And I think that's one thing, and your aptitude to be curious and to find answers and to just allow no barriers. I think that type of attitude really would be beneficial in companies just like Suncor. I know we're going that way. Just so I'm all about having courageous curiosity in your work as well as personal. And I think that's one of the true attributes that a differentiator for those coming into the system. My Calgary Women in Energy history has been, you know, the network is fantastic of women and allies as well. So we have phenomenal male counterparts that join us for our minglers, that come and present to us at technicals, and they are fantastic at being allies, just bringing in their perspective, because it's not just about female perspectives. It's also about allies and other perspectives, whether regardless of gender, regardless of cultural background, regardless of all the other components. So we're really about diversity and inclusion. And I think that resonates very well from CWIE with Suncor and then personally. So very glad to be here. And it's just phenomenal to kind of share our experiences in the energy industry. I'm not in the technical side, but I'm in more of the supporting services and have been for the past like almost 10 years here.
That's excellent. We are huge fans of what you do. And it's great to have this kind of representation as well. So we'll dive into the Q&As, because I know this is usually where we get going here, because a lot of people have a lot of questions. So we'll start with one for Tara. Being in marketing and sales, do you find it difficult when most of your sales meetings and presentations, like you could be the only woman in the room?
So I used to, especially when I was younger. I entered, I think, the industry when I was 23 years old. Now I'm aging myself. So I entered at 23, and I don't think you ever feel prepared to do a presentation. You can prepare as much as you want to, but there's always going to be things that have come up. I have always been really lucky, actually, to be one of the only females in the room, if there is another one. But I think, again, it comes back to being a brand. And I've got a very long last name as well, too. And it's a distinguishing factor. So whenever I am doing a presentation or doing something, the one thing I think is, you know, people are going to remember me because I am the only female in the room. And I think when you speak up and when you don't let people interrupt you, because I have been on that side of the table where, you know, people are talking over you or somebody gets an idea, I think really just saying, you know, if you could just wait till I'm done. And a lot of people kind of take a step back and look at you and say, did this girl actually just say this to this older person? Because it is a respect thing, it comes down to it. But I think really being able to hold your own, even if you are nervous, people know that you're trying. And again, it comes easier with time. But I would definitely say at the beginning it was hard. Now I feel like it's easy, and I think of it as such an advantage because of the visibility I gain being somewhat of a minority in the industry that I work in.
Do you feel that your marketing background has helped you with the work you're doing today?
It definitely has. And to Sue Ann's point about the social media and the digital implementation, I think it is huge in a company. And if anyone is specializing in marketing or the digital side of things, the lack of knowledge, and I'm generalizing, but the lack of knowledge from the baby boomers on this type of implementation on technology, like they don't have the experience that we do. They don't see things the same way. So when I got to my company, they didn't have any digital presence, and because they think historically rail. It has never been, you know, a social media, always kind of backwards. But I looked at the companies we were targeting, which were primarily oil and gas companies. And, you know, a lot of those companies in the last 5 to 10 years, it is about the marketing side of things. So I think it is extremely important to develop those skills. And even if it's something that you're not overly well versed in, but you have some type of background or insight to provide, it's huge. It's helped us a lot in our strategy. I'm the only non-technical one on our sales team. We're the only one with no rail experience. And I find the different skill set that I have brings something really different to our team. And it's part of the reason we are so successful.
How do you build the confidence to speak your mind with people who may look down on you or who may not take you seriously?
Slowly, there's been progress towards just understanding those different perspectives and valuing the various perspectives in the room. And I think also, like, culturally, even like at Suncor, we're moving towards that too, in terms of just be able to recognize that and come from a place of curiosity. Right. So there's different perspectives, and you never know that the various perspectives can offer you a much better solution to a problem, or even highlight a problem you didn't realize could be there. So a risk. So I think just being able to be confident and being open to being open to your opinions and open to the various perspectives, I think it's a really good starting point, regardless of how old, regardless of your gender, as you're sitting in that meeting room table.
Employers are really wanting to hear from their employees, like about mental health or well-being, or how do you cope with stress, or what do you need to succeed to be successful in your role. And if you're not voicing what you need to be successful, and if you're not voicing, you know, things that are happening in the workplace that maybe you don't agree with or don't align with your values or go against the company's cultures and mission statement, that's the time to find your voice, because you're aligning with your values, you're aligning what you believe in, and you're speaking your truth. So I think just knowing where you stand there just gives you, you know, natural confidence to be able to have that conviction.
Yeah, and I guess to Rayna's point, it is one of those things, unfortunately, it is still prevalent in the industry. And I think it is hard. I think there is a lot of age discrimination as well, too. I get it because I'm the youngest person on the team. But I think the biggest thing is trying to hold your own, and back to finding that advocate. I think if you have someone in the room with you who is going to also help you fight those battles. And I've had my management team go to war for me when, you know, maybe I haven't been treated appropriately, primarily internal stuff, but it is one of those things, having those people and knowing when to actually speak up. And unfortunately, half the battle is knowing that not everyone is going to like you or basically give you the respect you deserve, but you're there to do the job at the end of the day, regardless of their opinions of you. And you really just have to move forward with that and know that you do have a lot of support in the background as well.
So beyond some of the common barriers that we do see in industry, what are some of the barriers that we don't hear about as often that maybe we should be aware of?
So I'll start. I think a really big barrier for a lot of women, and I've personally dealt with this over the past year or two, is that a lot of the times we are given certain tasks that maybe are outside of our job scope. And it's hard because when you're a young professional, I think you really want to take on things and impress people. And it's good to, you know, expand your skill set and your knowledge. But at the same time, if it is more administrative or someone's pushing work on you, it is really, really important to say no. You cannot advocate for yourself. You cannot promote yourself if you are doing things outside of your scope that do not make sense in your role. You will not progress in your career. It's hard because I think just naturally women and people in general, they always do want to help. But sometimes you're just limiting your own career progression by doing so. So just being really, really, really just acknowledging that and understanding when it's okay to say no to people, because I have done it at, you know, the CFO level and the COO level, because it's not something that, you know, I want to do, and it's not something that will help me in my career. It's an administrative process.
Yeah, there's something to be said for learning to set the boundaries, right? And I think a lot of us are navigating that at the beginning of our career and saying, this is actually not something that'll serve me later on. And so maybe it's just best left, you know, to somebody else. We have a couple questions about like the gendered aspect of CWIE. So do you feel like you're taken less seriously because you're a woman in the workplace? And how do you cope with this? I'll let everybody answer this one.
Since I'm supporting functions, we have actually better gender parity in those areas, and even in some of the like operational areas, we've got really good representation. We're still growing. I think there's more in recent years with Suncor. We've gotten more metrics and data around that, and there's certain pinch points where in a career of a professional and when they're a female professional leader, there's points where they kind of feel like they hit a ceiling. So we have the metrics and we have visibility and stewardship and specific strategies around how do we close some of those gaps. For example, if like my personal example was I went home, had a couple of mat leaves, right? And in that career choice for me to take those mat leaves, that you kind of get pulled. It felt like to me you got pulled out of the talent pool, like the succession pool, like the same track that you were on prior to taking that leave. But we've at Suncor, we've actually taken a really good view on an eye on that, and the leadership has been listening in terms of these different stories that have come up to say like, hey, don't take them out of your planning for talent. Right? They're like if they're coming, if these women, these parents say they're coming back, they're coming back. Right? So make sure you put them in their plan, in your plans for their skills, because we need those skills, we know the capabilities. A lot of the female leaders have a really great collaboration leadership style, and we need that to be inclusive in our culture that we're driving forward. So I mean, there's still going to be that, there's still going to be stereotypes, there's still going to be assumptions. I think it's within our power to clarify those assumptions or even to raise them up when we see them happening. So if we get interrupted if our statement isn't being heard, then we have to be able to raise the flag and say like, hey, like, can you wait for me to finish my sentence? Or let me reiterate this, let me clarify, this is exactly what I was saying on this topic. And I think to Tara's point, having an advocate in the organization, super helpful, regardless if it's male or female, in your own, like within your own or business unit or org or outside. I think it's highly important to build your credibility, regardless of which team you're on and what project you're on.
I also would add, because you know, Sue-Ann, you said metrics and reporting are really important. So having like clear communication on what your performance looks like how is your performance being evaluated? What are the KPIs, the key performance indicators that show, you know, regardless of gender, regardless of person, that you're still performing at work. But it's also up to your manager and leadership team to set those expectations out so that everyone's on the same page. Everyone knows, you know, what they expect of you and what you expect as well. And ask for performance reviews. You know, every 3 months, check in with your leadership team. Hey, am I hitting these KPIs? Are you happy with my performance? If not, how could I improve? Or here's what I need to improve. So you don't, you know, that way you're not being taken advantage of. That way you're taking your role seriously and your performance seriously. And you also have visibility and communication with your leadership team.
The next question is, what do you think we can do to encourage younger women, so like high school age or teenagers, to look at the energy industry for their future career and not be intimidated by it?
I think starting to educate people younger and younger and letting them form their own opinions is so extremely important. And it's funny, I've had male colleagues or customers that I've previously worked with who are like, oh, my daughter or my son is looking at doing this, would you have a conversation with them? And it's funny thinking about it now. I wish I kind of knew about the energy sector earlier on in my career, because when I got into sales, I love it so much, but I'd love to learn the technical side of things. So if I could go back in time, maybe I would have done something a little more technical. But I think a lot of the times it's really just trying to engage with as many people as possible. And again, it's promoting your brand and making people known that, you know, you're really supportive of the industry and seeing how open they are to it. And I think students are as well too. I think we do still have a lot of time in oil and gas and Alberta oil and gas. And I'm hoping the market will somewhat recover even after all of the COVID stuff. Hopefully we don't get a fourth wave, knock on wood on that one. But it is one of those things where, you know, it's hard. I don't know if there's a correct answer for actually educating people on the younger side of the spectrum. Maybe part of it has to do with the digital transformation organizations are going through. But yeah, that's my opinion.
I agree. I mean, I think I didn't have anyone that like my parents weren't in oil and gas. They were both small business owners. And if I had known that there was organizations like Women in Energy, or you had Young Women in Energy, there's multiple networking opportunities where you can enter and be exposed to just really high caliber individuals who, by virtue of being in these organizations, want to help out, want to mentor. Right. I think that's probably one of the biggest learnings I had a mentor in the oil and gas industry. And he was phenomenal in just giving me a reality check also in terms of what I needed to know and understand about the industry, and what I need to develop in, what I came in having to build up on my capability. So as a high school student, I think if you can reach out, like the Calgary Women In Energies, remain courageously curious. So if you think there's something around like energy transition, or, hey, you guys are doing this really badly, I read about this stuff, like reach out. There's LinkedIn, there's different types of social media that you can reach out to people that work in these organizations. And just by reaching out, asking some questions, or even criticizing some areas and coming up with some like problem solutions, that might be a really great entree to an internship or to some sort of role or project. But you have to instigate that. No one's going to hand you things on a platter. I think for one recommendation for high school students and university students would be you own your trajectory of your career. Right. So the more ways you can reach out to more people, especially in areas you're passionate about, I think that's just the fruit of your labors will come. Right. But you have to be the first one to reach out and instigate.
We keep hearing the word mentor thrown around. And so somebody's asked if you can talk a little bit more about the mentors you've had and how to get the most out of their experience, especially if they're women. And also, do you go out of your way to mentor young women at CWIE?
Oh, great opportunity for like our marketing so CWIE, we had just finished off our pilot program for CWIE mentorship. And it was a small pilot, but I think you had some really great feedback. And the committee there that was responsible for the mentorship program actually was very, 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 very deeply involved in lining up the right people who are mentors and mentees, and also soliciting our membership to understand who wanted to be mentors. So CWIE has one. I've been involved in the University of Calgary mentorship program through MBA and undergrad for the past 10 years as well. So I've been both a mentee and a mentor in that program. So I know your schools probably have similar things going on, and they're industry agnostic, but you can get connected with people that are in an industry you are in or industry that you want to be in. My experience was that I was connected with a mentor that was actually partner of oil and gas in Deloitte at the time, and I was still in telecom. And he gave me some really, really good, just really good feedback, really realistic feedback. Because I think you go to school, you get your degrees, and you think like, I can go save the world. And then there's a reality check sometimes in terms of, great, love your energy, love what you bring to the table, but here's what else we need before we can give you that job. right? So I think mentors give you a reality check in that, and they also give you an understanding of like, what's your gap, right? And then some recommendations around how they could have closed it and how you could close it. And I think I'm also a proponent of just feeding it forward. So making sure that you mentor others, right? Because you could even be a peer, but they're in a different industry and they want to go into this industry. I think there's something of value that you can share and you can learn in every mentor-mentee relationship.
Yeah, and so I was actually part of our mentorship program. I was a mentor. I thought I wanted to be a mentee, but it is one of those things. I encourage everyone to think of themselves as a mentor, even if you are in a mentee position, because the amount of information I actually learned from my mentee through the whole process, it was phenomenal. Like the people you meet, everyone has something to teach you. But yeah, it was so beneficial in terms of, I guess, the corporate organization. My company, our parent company, Marmon, we have 120 companies. And so when I started, and this is also about, your personal brand, I connected with a lot of different business units. We do anything from medical manufacturing to food services. And I actually had a different sector president reach out to me because he saw what I was doing with our digital platforms, and he scheduled weekly one-on-ones. And it is one of those things where I think when you're working your hardest, people take notice, and it has been extremely beneficial having weekly one-on-ones with somebody, and now they're every second week, but kind of just trying to understand where you fit in an organization, what direction you should go in, and that visibility. And I guarantee if any one of you were to reach out to somebody high level in your organization, because a lot of the times people think, oh, I don't want to reach out to the president, or I don't want to do these certain things. A lot of the times you do get a response, and people are so willing to teach and share their knowledge and provide any insight that they can, because we've all been in that position where we're starting our careers and we have no idea what's going on. And let me tell you, like, starting from day one when I got my computer and I didn't know how to use Outlook, because that's not something they really taught in high school. They did not. But just those little things, like university somewhat sets you up for success, but at the same time, a lot of it is just dependent on yourself and going out and making those connections and not being scared to make those mistakes or send the awkward message to somebody.
What is the best way for male employees to be allies of female coworkers in the energy sector and on a day-to-day basis?
Just treat them as equals. Right? That's basically, I don't know what else, so why I value, this is like kind of connecting both last question and this question. I value I have both female and male mentors because they gave me different perspectives, right? And the more perspective you can receive, the more balanced your ideas and your problem solving can be, right? So I think for our male allies or team members that are, any sort of different, where the perspective they're coming from, just understanding, bring to light if there are unconscious bias that they're not aware of, that you just have to make it aware, make it visible. Right. And I think for most people, they don't want to be biased, but sometimes it's unconscious, and respecting where they're coming from, understanding where they're coming from. It could be like just where their background is or their previous experience. That's also a perspective. Right. So I think the role for us and the role for our male allies is to just be aware and call it out. If you see something, say something. If you see a certain team member who's a female that's always getting interrupted, then maybe you step in and say hey, let's I'm interested in hearing what Tara has to say about this topic. Can she finish on this one? Or even when you follow a comment you really agree, you can also pull up those your female peers, say Tara made this point, or Rayna made this point on X. I think it's something we really should discuss. And that kind of elevates them. If they're junior, if they're another a female at the table, and you want to bolster that opinion, that also helps, right? But I think that's something we've just in our organization has put a conscious eye to, is females leading other female leaders, pulling up other future leaders, and also just understanding it's not, you should be evaluated on just yourself as a person, not your sex, not your cultural background, not your physical abilities, right? So I think that's really what we're trying to get to in terms of equality.
Yeah, and it's one of those things, treat people how you want to be treated. And I say this so harshly, and I have said it so harshly to previous both female and male superiors, saying I need actual feedback and criticism. I think it's extremely hard being a female in the workplace and actually getting viable criticism that you can take and that feedback. I don't know why that is. I think there's a lot of softness to women sometimes, and maybe more of an emotional approach that we take to things, which I think is amazing, because I don't think you should ever stop being kind or the person that you are in the workplace. But really trying to emphasize to people, I want you to treat me like you're treating somebody else, and not differently because I am a woman.
Yeah, and I think with the male ally and support, it's also like, for me, I really wish in my career, with my male bosses or counterparts or those that I reported to, really like took me under their wing and really like made the effort to invite me to every meeting, and made the effort to educate me on, to Tara's point, more of the technical or operation side, and just like kind of jump in and say, okay, here are my meetings, you're coming with me. So you're going to shadow me, you're going to see like how I interact, what my language is, how I address certain problems, how I critically think, how I problem solve, and then give, your colleague an opportunity to also say what they would do in that situation, do like a post meeting and just say, I would do this differently, or just connect on things like that. But definitely making that time and just making someone feel comfortable on the team to come and like shadow your meetings. I think that goes a long way too.
Is there any advice that you would tell yourself at the age you began your career in energy, particularly as women in such a male-dominated industry? This is for everyone, so I guess everyone can have a turn and answer.
I'll start us off. So I wish I opened my mouth sooner. I wish I connected with more people, especially people outside of my specific job scope or role. I have learned there are no stupid questions. If anything, sometimes when you ask the question, you make people think more and you bring better ideas and you open up a lot of doors for yourself. But it is extremely hard. Like, we all start somewhere, and just having the confidence to, ask the questions, to network, to go out and meet people, even if you feel awkward about it, know that you're making so much more of an effort than a lot of people are, because to Sue-Ann's point, things will not be handed to you, especially in these times. It is extremely difficult right now for younger people to get ahead, and I feel for them because it is hard. And another thing too is also be able to acknowledge the accomplishments that you have. I had someone actually connect with me from this group on LinkedIn yesterday and send me a note. And it's funny because I'm so appreciative of those things, because sometimes I think we're our own worst enemy in terms of our confidence. And then when we see people reaching out and the impact that we can actually make, it kind of makes things worth it, and it makes you want to keep going. So yeah, just, if I could go back, I wish I would have done a lot of things earlier on in my career that I'm doing now.
I agree with Tara. I think in terms of be courageous in seeking out your own career, where you want to be, what knowledge you want to seek. The relationships I think you can build, and step outside of your comfort zone, right? So if there's someone that's senior and you would really be interested in their perspective, reach out and see what could happen. Start a conversation. I think when I meet people that are from school, fresh graduates, The ones that stick out to me are the ones that are just passionate and that are assertive and know what they want and know what they want, how they're going to get there. And they just, like, so that type of drive is, it sticks out. It makes a difference, right? So as even if I don't have a job for you today, gosh, I might have you in mind for something that will be opening up later. And I think with the networking of these types of different organizations like CWIE, you can actually build those relationships before you have to ask for that job, right? So that's so helpful when you're trying to get into an industry like ours in times like this, right? So you really have to stake out and differentiate yourself. And to Tara's point, you got to brand yourself, right? So are you an ESG enthusiast? Are you, are you really into just like like a social digital space that you have a capability in that? Like, build your brand, get it out there, known, and then I think the world's your oyster.
Yeah, I would echo everyone too. Those are all really good points, and this is a really great question. I think for me, I kind of agree with Tara in wishing I had more of a technical background. My degree in international relations was just kind of like this blanketed, like global political sort of ideology type space. But I did from that really understand like globalization and energy and how important energy is in our day-to-day lives. So I think like being just staying on top of being educated and really, to Anne's point as well, being curious and just asking questions coming into this will really benefit you. And just having, a basic understanding of what our energy industry is. Also, I wish that I had a mentor earlier. So definitely seek out those individuals that align with what you're looking for, or who really inspire you, will be really important in your career for your progression. And yeah, network, be confident, ask questions, raise your hand. All those things will really help you in the long run.
Also, do not forget to ask for training, or if there's something you want to take or do. I think it is so big. I did a pricing strategy course, and I'm not a financial analyst, nor will I ever be. It's not something that was in my scope, but I went to my boss and I said, I would really like to take this. And I think showing your employer that you really want to learn new skills, it just makes you seem so much more valuable. So if there's something you want to take that maybe is outside your job scope, or even if it is in your job scope, they will appreciate that. And if they can't do it now, they'll probably look at it later for you down the road.
Fantastic. Great advice, and great advice today as a whole. So thank you so much. I know you're all busy women, but we so appreciate your time, and that was just wonderful. For everybody else, I've dropped CWIE.org down in the chat box below in case you're interested in learning more or potentially going to an event or connecting. So feel free to take that initiative and go meet people on your own time. Thank you everybody for dropping by. This has been a great career development series, and we so appreciate everybody's time today. So take care everyone, and I hope to see you soon.